There's a specific scene in the episode, Dendy's video channel, where Dendy tries to approach TKO with, "You are loved and accepted." Shadowy Venomous cuts her off and specifically references Dendy experimenting on him. Remember that past grievance. Cling to that hurt. Wallow in that pain. After the events of the episode Mystery Science Fair 21X, KO tried to compromise with Dendy and downplay what happened to him. Dendy recognizes the impact and exactly what she did wrong. She's shown her active efforts to improve to KO. She appeals to KO, but not the part of him that's getting actively shunned, rejected, and pushed out. To TKO, Dendy is yet another threat to his existence, and a particularly nasty one at that. Despite Venomous and Dendy not sharing screen time or having any direct interactions, Dendy sits as an interesting parallel to Professor Venomous. Where science was her means to understand and interact with her world, science was somewhere between an escape from and means to bend the world to his whims for Professor Venomous. Dendy faces challenges like societal and cultural prejudices against Kappas. This extends to the huge conflict of interest between her impressive PAL card collection and that Kappas were barred from having their own PAL cards. In this fictional world, PAL cards are the ultimate symbol of someone's heroic or villainous deeds. Everyone has one. For lack of a better description, they're as ubiquitous as a driver's license in the US. It's possible to live and navigate daily life without one, but it's become such an ingrained, baked-in idea that everyone has one by default, that it's easy to forget how difficult or inaccessible it may be to some. There's a subtle, dismissive idea that you might as well not exist, and that you don't deserve to be recognized and accommodated for features or circumstances or traits outside of your control. For Dendy, it's a harsh reminder that she'll never be enough by her own merits, abilities, or character. KO became an object of envy, and a vicarious lens to experience parts of life that felt closed off to her. While KO did approach Dendy with earnest and honest intent to become friends, Dendy was working through and processing how to interact with or navigate the world at large. He became a means in Dendy's efforts to feel recognized and validated through her science. His vulnerability was the start of her lowering her guard and learning how to make more genuine connections with others. Unfortunately, their budding friendship was pitted against Dendy's enthusiasm for science, and the fact that this was, again, one of her few avenues to feel recognized and validated. Add in Miss Quantum's valiant but flawed attempts to challenge and cultivate how smart Dendy is, and Dendy is that much further cornered. Unfortunately, Miss Quantum isn't helping with her current homework on grueling difficulty mode. She contributes to Dendy's position as someone that has to meet, exceed, and excel. If Dendy can't be the hero she desperately wants to be, she'll be the scientist that unlocked the secrets of turbonic energy. Then there's Dendy's struggle with empathy and reading others' emotions. She's coded as autistic, so this is more a flaw that she could work on and be more conscientious about, rather than something intentionally malicious. She can draw up a scarily accurate read of someone's character and motivations. Understanding someone's emotions is new territory. The beginning of Mystery Science Fair 21X emphasizes Dendy prioritizing her fascination with Turbo and her curiosity about Shadowy Figure over KO's obvious discomfort. He tries to lightly avoid the topic and nudge Dendy towards something else. In I Am Dendy, there were unnerving hints that Dendy sees KO as a test subject. He's become her favorite focus dog subject versus the general, objective observation everyone else gets. Dendy was okay with leaving KO trapped in Boxman's junkfish because the scenario presented her with interesting data. She freed him because their mutual interest in PAL cards appealed to her more in the moment than studying KO in captivity. Mystery Science Fair 21X brings Dendy's unethical practices to the forefront. Dendy comes dangerously close to the unethical, morally bankrupt playbook of a villain. She justifies placing KO in increasingly annoying and dangerous situations for the potential benefits of understanding or harnessing turbonic energy and unlocking TKO's full capabilities. The scary part is when Dendy sets up a trolley problem simulation, and it's a very personalized nightmare scenario rather than a philosophical exercise. KO is very direct about how upset and distressed he is. He asks her to stop. Dendy bulldozes his boundaries and ignores that she's hurting him. When TKO comes out as a defense response, Dendy is thrilled. It takes her several minutes and TKO destroying her lab and actively antagonizing her for her to recognize what she was doing to KO. TKO destroying her lab was Dendy's epiphany about the weight and consequences attached to her science above all, or results above all, methodology. She thinks about what she finds so compelling and inspiring about KO in the first place, and figures that it isn't about his powers. She lays it out earlier in the episode, Dendy's video channel. KO inspires her because of how earnestly he cares about others. His wide-eyed curiosity about the world showed her a healthy, kindness-driven direction her own curiosity and scientific efforts could go. This direction lines up with the desire to be his friend and, later, to become a hero herself. KO plays a significant role in helping Dendy proactively challenge and start to tear down the cultural and personal barriers that prevented her from believing she could be a hero just like him. Seeing him as an ally helps her take more ownership of who she is and what she can do. It takes a while for Dendy to completely shift from filling in or substituting for KO. When she does, that's when she starts discovering who Dendy is and what she wants out of life. Venomous deliberately discarded ethics in his desperate attempts to become more powerful. His powers relied on having some kind of entity nearby to drain energy from. When he set off his ability, he had to be careful about who was nearby and the potential ways it could harm them. The sticking point was how much he needed others and had to be aware of them. To him, any other hero in point, especially Silver Spark, could fight their way out of any bind no matter who their opponent or circumstances. Seemingly, there were no caveats or obstacles to their abilities. No need to be hyper-aware of others, and by extension, playing some kind of compare and contrast between himself and them. Where most of Point trusted their teammates and felt confident in themselves, Laser felt weak. He paled in comparison to a stereotypical man as self-reliant, a provider, and the picture of stoicism. He hated leaning on Silver for emotional support and reassurance. Being a hero felt like a painful reminder of everything he lacked and couldn't live up to. Laser turned to science to compensate for low self-esteem and poor self-image. Laser's equivalent to Dendy's confrontation with TKO was Dr. Grayman finding his secret orbs, where Dendy had the presence of mind to understand why TKO was upset. Laser didn't acknowledge or agree with the team's horror-struck reactions and moves to shut down his efforts. Point was going to rip away the one thing that made him feel any ounce of control or purpose in his life. After his dramatic transformation into Professor Venomous, he doubled down. He became jaded towards how his experiments or inventions might harm others. He refused to surrender his pursuits and continued searching, seeking something to justify his misery. The KO trap was a showcase for what the worst of Venomous's casual experiments look like. This serves as a counterpoint to something like Dendy's Hack Pack or programming efforts. The science fair was an extreme anomaly compared to Dendy's open source programming policies and leaned towards crafting or inventing things that are ultimately helpful and practical in everyday life. Venomous creates sapient and aware creatures for the express purpose of tormenting and traumatizing his victims. He produces viruses to incapacitate heroes. He delights in using his knowledge of bioengineering combined with his ridiculous wealth to come up with new, horrible ways to torment others. It's selfish, it's evil, it's all for his own personal, demented amusement. And this is looking at the softer side of the Professor, without the cruel, unhinged edges of shadowy figure. KO tries to give Venomous the same grace and patience he gives everyone else. He gives so much of himself because it's what support he sees Carol give others, or what he thinks the ultimate hero would do. He spent so long trying to live up to the image of what he thought his dad might be like. KO has seen his efforts reciprocated in Rad, Enid, Mr. Gar, and Dendy. Venomous may not be exactly what he wanted or imagined. Because he's seen others grow and change for the better, that's enough evidence to give him hope. Misplaced or not, his hope is paired with the lingering need to have Dad around in some capacity. So Venomous is actually given more grace, patience, and leeway than everyone else. The red flags and previous grievances are pittance compared to the sparkling promise of what could be. Dendy prospers and thrives in part because of KO's presence in her life. He came around at the moment she needed someone to listen to and acknowledge her. Venomous has spent so much time sitting with and feeding his trauma. Everyone and everything is a distant echo. Neither Boxman or Fink, the most positive and impactful support system in his life, can make a dent against what Shadowy offers. TKO is a direct reflection of the monster Venomous is and wants to lean further into. TKO is unheard, chained up, repressed, and demonized. He's treated as a monster by everyone that claims to love and care about KO. Dendy's efforts to approach TKO with open arms and vulnerability are always directed at KO. Despite TKO trying to defend and stand up for KO, even KO tramples or misunderstands him. Venomous betrayed KO's Herculean efforts to connect with him. Shadowy Venomous is the only one that wants TKO. He's the only one that reaches out to and appeals to TKO directly. When Shadowy Venomous and TKO confront Dendy, she's a much different person than the scientist using TKO as a lab rat. Thankfully, Dendy subscribes to the same school of logic as Mr. Logic does with his own philosophy and ethics, the things that led to him becoming a hero. She prioritized learning to become a better friend to KO and exploring the power of positivity, empathy, and love. Dendy aspired to be as caring and compassionate as her dear friend, but with her own take and approach on doing so. Dendy is the frontrunner to approaching TKO with open arms, a willingness to listen, and vulnerability. While treating TKO as a separate other entity contributes to the problem, it's ultimately giving TKO the grace and patience everyone gives KO to this part of him that makes him feel seen and understood. TKO hasn't forgiven Dendy and holds a deep-seated grudge that Venomous feeds further fuel to. Venomous uses the same logic he assigns to all of his problems. What tragedies he endured were always someone else's fault. He blames the world at large for how miserable and hurt he feels. Destroying everything, stripping everyone of their autonomy and powers, is the only solution to make him feel powerful and vindicated. Venomous is a result of years of bitterness, self-loathing, and refusing to open up. He's posed as a mirror for what TKO is careening towards. TKO is as expendable, disposable, and given as little to no consideration as any other experiment Venomous has explored. He accuses Dendy of using TKO as a lab rat. He's using TKO as a stepping stone or pawn. Dendy is a mirror for how KO's kindness and patience can help transform someone when they're receptive to his efforts. She takes his advice and works to be a teammate or a partner. She's part of a bigger, concentrated effort that leads to KO giving himself the same love and compassion she gets from him. Professor Venomous is an example of how a corrupted, hurting man wields science like a weapon. Dendy is an example of a kind, caring person that uses science as an avenue for improving the world, helping others, and helping herself. I'd like to give a shout out to Starberry and Apricity on Patreon. If you donate to my Patreon or Ko-fi and would like a personalized shout out, send me a message and what name you'd like to be referred to as. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment, even if it's unrelated late night shower thoughts. Share this with your family, friends, and your local Saturday morning cartoon villain. If you love OKKO and are looking for some decor, I have something special for you. There's a Voxy Bunch pumpkin patch visit illustration on a leaf-shaped wood panel, and I have a witchy, red-knit date night featuring a KO cameo. Halloween's coming, so one of these might be a perfect holiday gift. I have them up on eBay right now. Check them out!